I will fight till I take my last breath. I got the heart of a warrior, the heart of a warrior. I've been down, I've been out, and I've been. Yeah. I got the heart of a warrior. Believe. The heart of a warrior. Yeah.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the world of survival horror. This is your Emperor, John Kill 3D, here to tell you about Resident Evil 2, but not the original, the Resident Evil 2 remake. How do you remake such a classic game without A, pissing off the fans, 2, living up to what the game was, the legacy it left behind, and the constant terror that the game gave us so many years ago? There's so many versions of Resident Evil 2. Some better than others, and some that we had to work with when we were younger. The first time I ever experienced Resident Evil 2, the original, was N64, which I know wasn't the best way to experience this game. But for the time being, it was still a good port of the game. It had to take 2 discs with CG cutscenes and all its content and merge it into one cartridge. Yes, there were some nerfs here and there, but it was unique nonetheless, and it successfully translated well over to the N64. Maybe not perfect, but better than nothing. That's all I have to say on that one. But this remake has been in talks for a long time, and Resident Evil has had an up and down history, a very tumultuous history, if that's the correct word for this. Leon S. Kennedy, Claire Redfield are staple characters. They've been in a few of the Resident Evil games, and Leon has starred in a good portion of them. The series really took off with his own standalone game, with Resident Evil 4. But then once we got to Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6, even though I still personally enjoy Resident Evil 6 and like Resident Evil 6, I did yearn for more of a survival horror-esque Resident Evil, but with the controls of the 4, 5, and 6 gameplay, because 4, 5, and 6 did take away the fixed camera angle. But fixed camera angles is what made zombies, monsters, all the biological terror weapons in the games scary. But again, they went in a different direction. But now we returned to what made the series so great. So, does this remake deserve your money? Yes. Yes, it does. It deserves every penny that it is asking for. Even the $70 edition is worth getting for its content alone. There's content from Resident Evil 1.5, the Ezra Walker quote, sorry, forgive me for mistranslating that. I was watching Star Wars Rebels, so I got Ezra and Elzla mixed up. Ezra Walker, you get her outfit that changes her into Claire, you could change it into Claire Redfield. And with Leon, you get a few different suits, extra weapons, so on and so forth. And even the original Resident Evil 2 soundtrack, which I love the score. I love the soundtrack that the remake provided us. It was just as good in its own right as the original, but when you play this game, I highly recommend you turn on the classic music if you have it. It will feel right at home. It doesn't date the game, and it doesn't make the game feel like it just came out of the 90s. No, the score fits perfect for the atmosphere. Even some situations and character plot points have been changed, because you do play as Leon and Claire, but through playing the game multiple times, you unlock the other scenarios. Ada Wong, for example. You also unlock Hunk, and even the Tofu Man. The game gives you reasons to go back and search. The Easter eggs that we knew from Resident Evil 2, searching for different secrets, they're still here, and they're here and plentiful. But the zombies pose more of a threat than I have ever faced in a game. I mean, even with powerful weaponry, these zombies are terrifying. They make zombies now look like pussies. The Walking Dead should take some notes on Resident Evil, because Resident Evil coined the term survival horror, and they adopted it and created it into a genre in its own, creating the subgenre, so to speak. So, the gameplay, it is a remix of what we already knew from the behind the perspective camera over the shoulder, but it's much more pulled out. Leon is not as up close as he is when he played in Resident Evil 4. And if you're wondering why there's two sets of footage being shown, just to quickly let you know on that, I couldn't record the PS4 footage, so I had to use Xbox One footage from my cousin's Xbox One of the one-shot demo. So, yeah. But I also decided to have him put Resident Evil 2, the original, in the corner at the bottom, so we can draw comparisons, or so you can see what is different for yourself if I don't explain. If I miss something, to compare it to, I'm sure you guys will make the comparisons yourselves by watching, and you'll be able to see what I miss as well, because I'm sure I have missed a lot of things. I'm on my second playthrough of the game, and to tell you that I'm willing to go through this so many more times to unlock the other scenarios, it should tell you something. I mean, it honestly is a testament to the game. Now, the story of Resident Evil 2, we all know the original Resident Evil 2 story with the infection in Raccoon City. But that's the thing. Both scenarios played out pretty much the same in the original game when you played as Leon and Claire, with only minor differences. But this time, each character does go on their own path through similar locations, but encountering different characters, different monsters, and seeing the results of your first playthrough take effect in the second playthrough. So that is really good. It even changes certain encounters that we're familiar with, like the encounter with the cop Marvin, meeting the Licker for the first time. The encounters have changed. And Mr. X, let's get into that big son of a bitch. Mr. X scares me to death. And if he scares me here, and the rumor is true of what they're going to do, doing this with Resident Evil 3, because Capcom already says they want to remake that game, hey, I'm all for it. But for any advice, I'd say they're only making these remakes to not only give the fans what they want, but they do have to stay in line with the continuity of the timeline, because the continuity of the timeline was kind of jacked after Part 3. With so many different games and so many scenarios, it just was inconsistent. And they also had to keep it consistent with the Resident Evil 1 remake. And I already thought that was a masterful remake. But how do you top that with Resident Evil 2? Resident Evil 2, in my book, gets a 10 out of 10. This is how you remake a game. This is top tier. This is actually Capcom, again, at its best. We're at a time where we think Capcom wasn't going to be the people we once thought they were when it came to survival horror and giving us what we wanted. They sure did deliver this time around. And if you want to know what my ideal Resident Evil game is, I'm actually going to do a separate video after this, because I don't want to squeeze it in and derive from the review. I just want to focus solely on this game. So I will do a separate video called What is my ideal Resident Evil game? Now back to Resident Evil 2. You have purpose in solving puzzles this time around. The rewards for searching through lockers, different codes, finding certain pieces for certain doorways, even going back to finding keys. It really takes what you know from the Resident Evil puzzles, and it makes you think twice, because you can't just go into this thinking you know where everything is. Yes, they took the same puzzles and even added new puzzles, but they remixed all of them, different locations, different areas, and overall they really wanted to throw you off. And I feel that Resident Evil 2 did that superb. The voice acting is top notch with homages to the original Resident Evil. Not the remake, the original with the goofy dialogue. Because some areas have cheesy dialogue, but it is welcome. I even wish that they had a live action introduction. That's how much the first Resident Evil made such an impact. Even though the funny part is the first Resident Evil wasn't the Resident Evil I played. RE2 was the first one I played, and then I played the Resident Evil 1 later down the line as Resident Evil DS, Resident Evil Deadly Silence. That's the one I played, and it's basically a PS1 game on a DS, but it was worth it. So there's not much more I can say about the game. I mean, in all honesty, this game really deserves the praise, and it is already becoming a success. And the game is a huge hit right now, showing you that survival horror is still alive. Survival horror is still strong, and there is still strength in the Resident Evil license. Okay? This game takes what we knew of Resident Evil and cranked it up to 11. I mean, going as far as the gore. I have never seen such zombie gore to this degree. The gore is almost beautiful. Even the sewers with fucking shit pumping out of the pumps. And I mean literal shit. And it looks good. I can't believe I'm saying shit looks good. This is the fucking end of the world. But anyway, without spoiling anything, because I don't want to talk about other plot points of this game any more than what I have already have. If you have a bare minimum knowledge of what Resident Evil 2 is, you can go into this game without playing the original, obviously. But if you are a veteran of Resident Evil 2, and the Resident Evil franchise as a whole, you owe it to yourself to play this game, and you owe it to yourself to return to the place where it all began, Raccoon City. The place that jump-started our favorite characters, that jump-started the survival horror genre into stardom. Anyway, this is Emperor John Kill 3D Gaming, and wait toward the end of the video, and you'll have something special coming. I'm returning to my classic game reviews for Resident Evil. I'm playing a classic Resident Evil game. Well, a classic to me, and it will be going to classic game reviews on my channel. Some of you might already know which one is my favorite Resident Evil game from the PlayStation 2 genre, and it ain't 4. So, until next time, guys, this is Emperor John Kill 3D Gaming, and I'll catch you all later.